And my name is Jessica.
And I'm Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to interview my wife, kind of pick her brain about the things that she does. And without further ado, I'm going to start with So tell me, what is it that you do?
What do I do
Yeah.
for my career of choice?
Yeah. What is it? Can you explain to me kind of what it is that you...
I am a guide in breathwork and meditation for those who are seeking to find themselves, better themselves, and I'm ready to host retreats in that as well.
So what provoked the beginning of into...
What provoked it? Probably when I began the process of weaning off antidepressants. I was on antidepressants for 19 years, and we had just moved into this house, and I had everything that I had wished for, but I was still super sad, so I went to the doctors, and they asked me how long I had been on Lexapro. That was what my prescribed pill was. And then he told me they just stopped working. And so I was going down the avenues of trying different recommendations, and they were making me more crazy. So I started meditating and journaling, and and then I realized that I did not want to rely on a doctor who is in practice, that I was going to begin my own practice of something that was going to work for me. And I just discovered that. And then I just kept doing it. And now I'm at a place of 7 years being off. And I am now realizing that I was my own healer, and that others can be their own healer too. I show them that.
So when you embarked your journey after letting go of the pharmaceuticals, the next question would be like, who do you say are your most profound mentors in your search for this self-healing? Like, how did you get started? Like, who did you find out there that helped you along get...
The very, very beginning, I discovered an app called Insight Timer, and there is a woman on there who, of course, I just drew a blank in her name, but her words were really, really touching, and because I was starting to play with the feelings, like my actual emotions that were coming up with me every single day, so I would wake up in fear, and so I would literally type in fear in the Insight Timer and find a meditation of it. Sarah Blondin was the one, and she had specific meditations, and they're basically like poems she was reading, and so there were one specifically about fear, and which was a lot of it that was coming up was fear every day. And then I found emotional freedom techniques, tapping, and that was with Julie Sheffman, and she has like hundreds of different emotional freedom techniques. They were all free. They're just like 7-8 minute things. And so I just started, those were the big ones that started the shifts. And also journaling. Journaling was a big thing. So I would get up, figure out whatever the emotion was happening within me, if it was fear or anxiety, which were the two big ones. Then I would listen to the meditation, and then I would just write. Even if I weren't really writing things, I would just write over and over. And then I discovered the emotional freedom techniques of tapping, which were physical touch on the meridians and saying out loud the problems that I was having. And so it was giving everything a name. And then everything started to slowly become more manageable.
What inspired you to start journaling? Who told you to do that? Did anybody say this is what you should do?
I know, I'm trying to think if at the time Katya Nova, who started Matriarch, had already began something with that. It was very close to those things happening, that she began Matriarch, and she pulled in, I don't even know how many women, at least 25 maybe 20 different women, 20 to 25 different women who all had gifts that they were already providing to the world to help with healing processes and things like that. And so it was very inspiring to see all these women go through their trials and then be able to come out of them, and using natural healing modalities to do that. And one of the big ones was talking about journaling. And yeah, I think that was around really tight, close-knit to that time.
Okay. Let's go back to the history of your taking antidepressants. Do you know, like, when did that start, and what did they tell you as to why you had to start taking that? What was going on with you at the time?
Yeah, I was, it was the summer going into high school, and now that I've done all this work, I can actually pinpoint the exact moment when my heart hardened. And it was more of those teenage things, like wanting to fit in and not feeling a part of. And I've always been really hard on myself. And so at the time, do you want the pinpoint, or do you want me to what happened, like when I went?
Why did they say you needed it, and what were you feeling at the time?
Yeah, so when I was going through the struggles of going into high school, and my friends were no longer my friends, and then it just became this, I just became kind of like a loner. I was really sad and depressed over it. And so I didn't know any other way. My family didn't know any other way. So we went to our physician, and he started me on Wellbutrin. And it was helpful, but it was messing up my my monthly menstruation and stuff. It was causing additional problems. And so I went back, and around that time was when Lexapro was kind of new on the market. And with that now, my knowledge and research of all my timing in the year, it was actually the year I think that it came out. And the doctor told me that I just don't produce enough serotonin, and that this would help with that. It would help produce the serotonin for me, that my body just didn't produce enough of it. And I believed him.
How were they able, or how did they?
There was no test.
And so I've never taken antidepressants, not to the recollection that I have with experiences, but when you're on them, exactly what do you feel? When you weren't on them as a teenage girl, they placed you on them into adulthood, all that time, what were you experiencing while on them?
Well, in the beginning of being on them, I was able to not feel so sad anymore. And so with that, it gave me more courage to kind of reach out and do more. I was dancing at the time, so I was still into doing that. And then, and then I made a new friend who, and I was all excited about that. And it made me feel like I could be happy. But as I got older and wiser and more matured, and different, things happening in my life, I realized that it was actually keeping me from being fully happy as well. It wasn't, kind of put me in a box. So it was allowing me just enough to be sad, but not too sad, which by not fully being sad, for instance, going through grief, there were pieces of grief still stuck in me. And then by not fully being happy to its fullest, there were still pieces that couldn't enjoy the moment in the present, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Okay, so can you explain any perspectives you have now in regards to the way Western medicine dealt at that time?
I guess in a way, I do know that their intention I don't believe that their intention was to be wicked. I think that they only know what they know, and they only know what they've been taught. And there's always an ego within us that promotes greed and money. And so I guess knowing the doctor that I had initially that prescribed the Wellbutrin, I do believe that he wanted to help, but they didn't know possibly all of the holistic ways. And because that wasn't their place, they weren't going to provide that. The doctor that prescribed Lexapro was not my family doctor. Like, he wasn't the doctor. He was kind of like the substitute doctor when you go and they just say, like, you can go to one. So in some form, and I know, like, what really pushed me is my anger. I was so angry at them that I was going to prove to them that they were not the answer. And then even if they don't know that, it was just in my own way. And yeah, like, as I've gotten through all of those initial angry feelings or resentment feelings, I feel like there's just a lack of education in general. And because that's their career of choice, and that's, I'm sure they have bosses and they have, guidelines that they have to follow, just like anybody that's in a career under someone. They weren't allowed to possibly even provide holistic modalities. If does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, babe. We're doing good. All right, so I remember you and I had a conversation to where, I believe with the Lexapro,
Mm-hmm.
that you revisited another doctor in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and they finally said to you something like, how long have you been on it? That, oh, no, it just stops working. What happened then?
That was when I was, when I
And
had
how old
told
were you
him
then?
I was 33. So I started Wellbutrin when I was 14, and I was 16 when I got Lexapro. And then, so I had just turned 33 when I went to him, and then he asked, how long I had been on it, and I told him, and he said, yeah, it just stops working. I kind of was like, well, now what do I do? And so he went to give me a prescription that was like a sister, or like they call them like cousins or sister pill. I don't know which one it was, but we didn't have insurance at the time, and it was going to be like $430 for a 30-day supply, and I was used to paying $21 for a 3-month supply, even without insurance. And I just didn't feel right, with you being our sole income, to have that kind of money. So, taken for my mental my mental illness. And so then he prescribed another one, but still it was like close to $300. And again, I was just like, it's just crazy to do for just 30-day supply. So then he gave me the old school Prozac, and I tried that for, I don't even know, I think it was only like a week. And I was waking up in the middle of the night with these heart palpitations. It was like really, really kind of felt more crazy. And I don't know if that is a part of the weaning process or whatever. But I was like, that's it. I threw my hands up because I didn't want to go through all the cycles of more pills. I didn't want to go through that. I didn't want to put my body through that. So I was just like, fuck this, I'm going to do it myself. And so I was like looking up foods that were high. I read, magnesium is a really, we need that mineral for, I was just looking up anything that helped depression. And so it was like magnesium was a big one. So it was like, what foods have magnesium? And cherries have a lot of magnesium. So I was trying to eat like dark reds, like beets and cherries and things like that had that high vitamin and minerals in them. And I think I was taking some natural herbal supplements and things like that also. And So yeah, that just started that rolling, and then it got worse before it got better, of course.
So how do you want to help people? What should they know in regards?
How do I want to help people, and what should they know? So I want to help them to know that there are so many natural healing routes that you can do. It does take a little bit longer, and it takes effort and work and daily dedication to it, for one. As far as anyone who actually is on an antidepressant at this moment and they're wanting to wean off completely, absolutely they need to talk to the doctor and start that process, because there is a process. And that was a thing with me. Like, I was so angry, like so angry, and I lost a distrust in the whole game of Western doctors. And so, and this, I believe, was a strength that happened for me, but not everybody is me. And so they need, if they trust their doctor or have any trust in their doctor as a person, as a doctor, they need to go to him or her and they need to say, I want to completely be off of this. And so with that, you need to already be starting some kind of daily self-improvement already before you stop the pills, because there's going to be a weaning process for sure. So if you are not already journaling, start journaling. If you're not already meditating, start meditating. If you're not already doing breath work, do breath work. If you're not already doing something in your diet, start doing something in your diet. That all needs to start happening so that you can get the mind ready and the body ready for that process. And then the doctor will go through whether you're changing the milligrams, maybe doing a half for so long, and then, starting every other day, or however that weaning process is, because I don't know it.
So tell us about your weaning. How long?
My cold turkey process.
Pretty much.
My cold turkey process was super scary. I was mentally challenged with the voice. There's this part of it's the ego, right? The ego is always talking and telling you what you can and cannot do, right? And so for me, my process got really scary, because there was a time that I was super, like, I couldn't do it, and that I wasn't worth it, and I became suicidal. And that was super scary, and I don't think anybody should have to go through that. But the whole process, I think when I actually felt free, completely free, was probably, it took about 2 years. 2 years to feel that it was actually freeing from my cells, starting to free, like, from my body. And then it was probably after a good 3 years that I felt like good, like real good, that I was like, I did it, good.
I like hearing this story. I hear this. I like hearing it. So after doing this, after weaning off of that and finding all these mentors the way that you did online, I recall that I would listen in the distance. You'd be on some women's group, online or something. Tell me about what that did for you.
Yeah, it wasn't just healing the process of the resentment with Western medicine. It was really finding where I was when I began to get lost. And that was, where that pinpoint was, when I hardened, when my heart hardened. And there was a lot of healing that needed to happen with what they call the sister wound, and having the ability to be a strong enough woman to go to other women for guidance, because sometimes there's a wall there, or there was a wall there. And so through Matriarch and having that, at the time that all started was when COVID happened. And so everything became digital, that you can just hop on a Zoom and go to these kinds of meeting things. And then any of the information that really resonated with me from any of the women, I just held on to and I practiced myself. And then I knew that I was ready and prepared enough to completely let go of the resentment with the doctors, and then resentment with the sister wound, with the bullying and stuff that happened with like my girlfriends in high school and things like that. And then I found a women's retreat that was here in Texas, and I didn't even know the woman who was doing it, and I just, put the down payment on it, just sent her, I think it was like a Venmo or something. And she assured me, I even was able to tell her the next day, like, oh my God, what did I do? I don't even know what I did, like sending you money. But she said, fear is false evidence appearing real. And like from that time of her saying that, I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense, because we put so much fear in our own minds. And so I was just surrendering to whatever my heart was feeling called to. And then after that retreat, so much magic happened that I was able to just release and let go. And then I was like, this is it. This is my calling, to provide a safe space for those who are ready and willing to have the courage to self-heal. And I wanted to just learn and know how I could do that. And so that just got the ball really rolling on doing that.
Well, you took my next question away, because I wanted to ask you, like, about retreats. Like, how did you come about knowing what a retreat is, and then what was in your first retreat that you went to, what did you take from that? How did that help you in your daily life after that? And if somebody has never been to a retreat before, what was your experience like? Was it scary? Was it, I mean, it's mostly just, they're only females that would be a part of this particular retreat you went to.
Yeah, there's also co-ed retreats. This particular one, I was specifically looking for a women's retreat only. It was through Matriarch with Katya, and her talking about her going to retreats and how they healed themselves, and just hearing that, and my body was like literally like, you need this, like you have to find one. And I didn't want to, I was still very very close with Maxie, and I didn't want to like travel super far. And I was looking online I was literally typing in like women's retreats in Texas, and some of them were only like 3 days, which technically you're only getting one full day, because it's arrival and then you get a whole day and then it's the day you leave. And I wanted something longer. I needed something longer. And then I just happened to scroll, and there's a woman named Kendall through Dazin Collective, and it was like one spot left, and DM me or whatever. So I like DM'd her through Instagram. I DM'd her and I was like, I need this, I need that bed. I need that last bed. And then she offered it for like $222 off, which is my number. For those of you who don't know, my son was born at 222, so that's always been like my number. So those were all these like idiosyncrasies that were happening. And I don't even know if I told you that I was gonna do it, or I think I just did it, and then I was like, this is happening.
I'm going.
Yeah,
I don't care. This is fine.
I knew I needed it. I knew that there was medicine there, holistic medicine there, that I needed to heal me, and I needed that guidance from somebody to hold the space. I grew up going to raves and festivals, and when you're in that energy of music and dance and good people and some bad people, but like most of them are good people. There's this shift. It's medicine. It's medicine that happens, and I wanted to experience it from a point of with guidance, knowing that there was going to be yoga and breath work and clean eating, and they were offering different exercises to heal the heart, to heal the sister wound, and then also fun things with like dancing, and we did this like aerobic yoga, and then the breath work. I was starting to dabble into breath work, and so I was really excited to learn more about that and actually experience it with like in a what they would call a container. They called it container, and that's when I was learning about all those things. Like, I want to be a part of that, and so I felt that call that I needed that to level up, because I had already gone through the weaning process. I already was doing the journaling. I already was still, on and off with the tapping and doing breath work. And it was like inside and visibly, obviously, because I was still here, it was working. So I was like, okay, I need the next level up. I need to let go of these things that no longer serve me. And one of the big ones was healing that sister wound, healing the part of me that felt so betrayed by the women, the girls in my life, and so I wanted to level up in that, and so I did it, and I found it, and then all these, I feel like they're like gifts from God. And so I was just opening each present that was there for me. And so I just learned, and I surrendered. And I was also learning about ancestral healing, which was a big one, because my mom is on antidepressants. And I don't know if my grandmother was, but I know that other women in my family are. And I know that there's just the healing that I do for me is going to go back in time. And even if my grandmother and stuff are not here physically, that I was going to be going there for her. So I did, and I'm so happy.
I remember after you left that retreat, you did come home like a different person. Actually, quite vulnerable person.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know space, but that's what I wanted to ask you was, now it took off learning about different self. I couldn't, but maybe you could synopsis of all the stuff that you've dove into, and what are they called, and maybe like a brief description of what they be and what they did for you.
Well, yeah, like after that, I was a different person. There were parts of me that had upgraded, and there were also parts of me that still needed to integrate to really find like where I was at, because being in the position of wife and mother and daughter, I was lost on what I needed for myself. There were things that I knew that I needed, but I wasn't quite sure how to get back to the Jessica of joy, the Jessica who was the fun part of me. I could do it for a little bit, but then I wanted to just do it like all the time. So that helped a lot to release all of those things. And then like as far as the modalities that I really dove into, as far like in breath work.
Yeah, one is breath work, and then I think you did other things, but and what are you specialized?
Yeah, so I think it was as I really continued from then on to do the breath work and the meditation for myself and learning how to be able to sit still. Last year was when I made I felt the call to pull in mentors that were actually specifically to have like certifications in those things. And so because I had experienced sonic neuro at that retreat last year.
You're gonna have to tell the audience?
Oh, right. So sonic neuro is an extremely deep breath work that you're able to shut off the thinking mind and access the subconscious mind, so that those things that which no longer serves you can come forth, and you're able to release them. And you are able to release them through sound. So, if you're yelling or tears, crying, or somatic movement, it helps to release all of that. And so I got to experience that with a large group, and there were some really deep-rooted things that I wasn't even sure was going to come up. They did, and they released for me, and now I'm able to just be free of that. And these are the kinds of things like, if a subject comes up with you and you begin to get that knot in your throat and you are unable to speak about it and things like that, sometimes those are the things that come up that need to release, and then you're able to kind of have that that emotional peak, and then you can be free of it. And so with that breath work, it's really, really deep breaths for continuous breathing that you can reach that point. And Kendall, who was hosting that retreat, her partner Ben is the creator of that breath work. And then last year he was offering it to become certified in hosting or in guiding those through that breath work, amongst other breath works and things like that. So that was when I made that leap to really become more educated on how to do that. And then after that certification, I had always followed Adi Shakti with soul work also, but around that same time that I was learning from Ben, I had dove back into her weekly meditations, and then she was offering this bundle on like becoming the guide, Kundalini yoga, different meditation certifications as well. And so then I started doing that certifications and learning all that she was offering, and then her extended teachers were offering, like with Kundalini. And yeah, I just felt it honestly felt, as I was learning them and practicing them, they just became natural. Like it felt like it was something that a part of me already knew, and then maybe that's why it was always calling me or something, but it really felt like something that I had already done in a past life or something. And so it felt really natural to learn and to practice it. And so then I'm at this place where I'm so ready to show others and those who are ready to learn.
2 more questions.
Okay.
Okay, so the grandfather clock is gonna ding ding here, so we'll just
It's
wait.
okay. Oh, it's gonna be the time. What's the hour?
It's 9 o'clock.
We're going on
Or is it
7.
7.
It's okay.
So,
It might be kind of nice for people to hear too.
right?
I love hearing it.
Yes,